of your Women's Fund Miami-Dade to welcome you to this Impact Collaborative. Innovate to elevate the workforce. Bosses for Babies and your Women's Fund. And it's actually more of us. This audience is filled with incredibly powerful people, which means that they affect other people. That's my definition of power. So yes, my name's Maria Meyer. That's how you pronounce it. And these powerful, amazing human beings are the Women's Fund Board of Directors, and they really do break a sweat, and we thank each and every one. Many of you are here with us today, so good morning, y'all. We have 4 pillars, and today our focus is on our economic mobility pillar. And there's no better partner across the years than Kaufman and Rawson. So we thank you for what you do day in and day out, and for continuing to ask the question with us, hey, why are we still paying women less? Really, we need to gather together to accelerate. Much can be changed and quickly. We had an incredible Raise the Bar. We have 2 signature events, as you know. Many of you go to Power of the Purse, which will be March 14th, right in the middle of Women's History Month in 2025. But the legal community, the judiciary community, and lots of folks who surround that, and people who love the Women's Fund and our Freedom from Violence pillar, really showed up. And so we sold out, and we had a couple of really big sponsors, including our senior partner Lidler and partner Louis Brisebois. And I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And we thank them especially. We were able to not only have incredible networking and conversations that night, we were able to unveil with our partners at Christie House and 2 Million Children and the state attorney a brand new public awareness campaign. Don't be scared, be prepared. The Christie House has resources for all of us. Even though we think that we're dealing with digital mental health, we're not. There's too much going on. It's a very fast moving train, and we are being equipped through our friends and our partners at Christie House in knowing how to deal. So we thank you all for helping us to weave this incredible fabric of the Miami-Dade community, and don't be scared, be prepared. So many of you, I'm thanking you. I'm seeing your names for being here in the audience. Amazing. Please participate the whole time, as you very well know how to do. Those of you who have been here before, those of you who it's your first time, very special welcome. And we're going to go forward quickly because there's a lot of genius with us today. And some of that genius is in-house. So I am going to ask you to look at this, listen a minute about a tool that you can leverage. Here's your Women's Fund's new title, Director of Research and Policy, Viviana Alvarado Pacheco. Vivi, take it away.
Thank you so much, Maria. Good morning, everybody. It's great to have you all here. So I am just giving you all a very quick glimpse of a new tool that we actually released back in August, which is called the Miami-Dade Self-Sufficiency Standard. And it is a tool that you can use to see how much a family requires in order to make ends meet without any private or public assistance. This is an interactive tool that you can check out right now on our website, and it really begs the question of, can you even afford to live in Miami? And we actually went further, highlighting the housing and especially the childcare crisis in Miami-Dade County by asking the question, can you afford to have children in Miami? Those are the highest expenses for families, as you will see as you play around with the tool. And fret not, in December, we're actually going to have an impact collaborative on this tool and other research tools that we have. It's going to be a great training, so I hope to see you all there.
Because these resources are to be leveraged, and that includes the wisdom of the incredible presenter that we have with us today. It is my honor to share a screen for a second with the brilliant leader, Madeline Thakur. Please introduce yourself and take it away. Tell us all about what we need to know to frame this conversation.
Great. Thank you so much, Maria and Viviana and all the rest of you. Happy to be here. So I'm Madeline Thakur. I'm president and CEO of the Children's Movement of Florida, and I am a mother of 2 boys who are pretty young. So that'll figure into what we're talking about today, which is how family-friendly policies are the most important investment we can make in our workforce. And as I pull up my slides here, I just want to share, this is about 2 generations of the workforce. Part of this is, how do we support the men and women who have young children to opt into the workforce? And the other piece is these young kids who are running and jumping and playing in preschool, how are they the future of our workforce, and how do we best support them? So I just want to start with some local context. In Miami-Dade County, there are 11,078 children in the 3rd grade who don't read on grade level. This is one of the most important predictors of success in school and in life. And so we know that we need to make a change here. And so what is that change? Here's the other thing we know. These are statewide numbers. Only 51% of children ready for kindergarten, only 55% reading by 3rd grade. We actually in Miami-Dade are doing a little better than the state. It's 56%, but there's no reason to celebrate when more than 40% of our children still need extra support. And what these numbers tell us is that there is something that is happening in children's development before kindergarten that's really critical. And when you start behind, it is really hard to catch up, because we know that of the children who are not ready for kindergarten, and these very similar numbers when you get to 3rd grade, the newsflash, non-newsflash is that these are the same children. And so we need to do better to support them before they get to kindergarten. So what does that look like, and what do you need to know? This is a 3-year-old boy. In case you forgot that these are our babies, but they're not babies. They are ready to learn, ready to go. This is a 5-year-old boy. So 85% of the brain is developed by age 3, 90% by age 5. It so happens that these are my 2 beautiful boys, and so I'm a temporary expert on what young children can do in this magical time. But here's the thing, those numbers, if you've heard them before, it doesn't mean that any of us know 85% of what we're going to know when we're 3. It means that the architecture of the brain is forming. In the first 2 years of life, there are more than 1 million new neuronal connections firing every second. Every second, a million new connections. And the way it works is you have back and forth interactions with adults. And so the neurons are firing, you have a back and forth interaction with the adult, the neuron sticks. And if you don't have that back and forth interaction, neurons are still firing, that's happening in the young brain, but they're not sticking, they're not getting the feedback that they need. So take a simple interaction with a banana as an example. You've got a young child, 18 months old, sitting with the parent, looking at a banana on the table. Parent number 1 picks up the banana and says, "Oh, I see you're looking at this banana. And so did you see that it's yellow? You know, if you touch it, it's sort of smooth on the outside. Why don't we see what happens on the inside? Peel the banana. Look, it's a little mushy. You want to touch it." All kinds of back and forth interactions. Scenario number 2, child sees the banana. Parent sees the child seeing the banana. "Oh, do you want the banana? Here it is." Passes the banana. Got to get back to my Zoom call. Sorry, got to focus here at work. In the first scenario, there's so many more words: smooth, mushy, touch, all kinds of things that are happening. And in the second scenario, not as much happening. And so what do we need to know? So 85% of a child's brains develop by age 3. And then the other important factor is that 68% of children under the age of 6 in Florida live in homes where all adults work outside the home. And so this tells us that teachers, early learning educators, help with this important job of that back and forth interaction. And so it is in preschool that children are learning to communicate, to cooperate, to focus on a task, to manage disappointment that comes to all of us, and that we really hope when we become adults and we're in the workforce that we've got folks who know how to manage those emotions, how to talk to colleagues about disappointments, this is the future workforce. And if we get those interactions right and children develop the language that they need, that is the basis of early literacy, and they develop those social skills, what the military might call soft skills, what many executives call executive function, these are the things that we want in our future workforce. And then, of course, since 68% of young children are living in families where all adults work, we need to find ways to support them. So here's our promise at the Children's Movement. We are an advocacy organization focused on the 0 to 5 years, and we promise to embrace the challenge to make Florida the family-friendliest state in the nation, the best place for young children to live and to thrive. And we do this because we know how important an investment it is in our future, whether you personally have children or not. So that brings us to Bosses for Babies. This is our initiative that is focused on helping executives see how to support their workforce and community prosperity through family-friendly practices. And I want to recognize our brand newest boss on the website, Maria Meyer, who supports her employees within Your Women's Fund with all paid family leave and flexibility and all kinds of things. And we've got leaders all over the state, 85 of them right now, who have said, yes, we have family-friendly policies. We like what we have. We know we want to do better. So far across 22 counties, touching more than 100,000 employees. So here's the thing, employers have a huge role to play in getting all children ready for kindergarten and in tackling these issues because they touch those adults who are most important in child's lives, which is their parents. And so what are the family-friendly policies that we recognize? The first one is paid leave. This might be parental leave for the birth or adoption of a child. It might be sick leave. It might be paid time off. All of those things fall in this category. And we are very optimistic that Miami-Dade County, as an employer of tens of thousands of people in this community, will be the next member of the Bosses for Babies network, because just yesterday in the Board of County Commission meeting, they looked at a resolution to improve paid family leave for county employees. Right now, I think it's 6 weeks of leave, two weeks at 100%, 2 weeks at 75%, 2 weeks at 50%, and they are looking at expanding that to 12 weeks, 6 weeks at 100%, and then the additional 6 weeks at 50%. So hopefully they will be our newest Bosses for Babies member in that area. The second one is flexibility. And here you see the wonderful Andrea Sid, who you will hear from shortly. The idea is it's not just in an office building, in a desk job, where you can offer flexibility to employees. Even on a production line, there is something that you can do. And so I won't steal your thunder, Andrea, on that one. Number 3 is childcare. This is the beautiful on-site childcare facility at PGT in Venice. Might not be on-site for everyone, but there may be ways that you can support through our new tax credit in this state if you offer a subsidy for childcare for your employees, and all kinds of ways. The key is to ask the question. If it's a need among your employees, you might want to look at what you can do to support. The fourth is health and wellness benefits, ideally not just for the employee, but for the family. And the last one is accommodations and support, which might include babies at work, might include a lactation room. And in our Bosses for Babies initiative, we talk about how it's important to support, advocate, and or give back. And so whether that is reading in a local elementary school, or did you know that these sunshades are probably $60,000 plus at a local school? If you're a business that takes an interest in education, it's not just the local elementary school or the local high school that might need your support. Those early learning centers in the community are great too. And then it is not just on you to provide benefits for your employees. You can use your voice as business leaders to advocate in our state. So there's more on so many of these that you'll hear from the panelists today, who are all members of Bosses for Babies. And you can also find many more details in our guide to family-friendly workplaces in Florida. So I'll stop there because I know we have time for Q&A after the discussion, and turn it back over to Maria.
What a perfect setup. Thank you so much, not for just this, but for what's going on every day. So what can we do? we're here for fishing poles. What do we need to know? What can we do? So on the left-hand side, you're going to see the Bosses for Babies in Miami that existed 2 weeks ago, right? Amazing. And we thank you. I see Alfred is on there, Sanchez, who you'll be hearing from momentarily. So I think there were 11, if I'm counting correctly. So Women's Fund has signed up. Porpoise has signed up from Littler, who you're about to hear from as well. Amanda Altman and Christy House, the Beacon Council, Ron Miller, Beacon Council's in the house. Hello, Dr. Paula Hopkins. The YWCA has signed up. Of course, they're in this day in and day out. And the Miami Beach Chamber of Commerce, the brilliant Brittany Basant. So that's just in the last week. I challenge all of us to let's hocus pocus focus and let's get this number to 100 by this time next year. And if it's before, then we can always up that ante. So all of us can sign somebody up here, and Rick is in the audience. We're going to give you tools. We're going to put it in the chat, and we're going to have slides up to see how you can work with the children's movement to make Miami-Dade that that bright shining beacon within the state that just like Madeline said, family friendly. So on we go. This is your Impact Collaborative. Please communicate in the chat. Please participate in the polls, including the exit poll. One of the polls will ask you if you would like to be put in contact with any of our panelists for today or their organizations. It doesn't stop here. What we're doing is weaving a stronger fabric, and that weave continues past today. So please do very much participate. So now on we go to asking the impossible, which all of our brilliant panelists will make possible. Introductions of themselves in 2 minutes or less, because they're introducing themselves in context of today's topic. So Alfred, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
All right, thank you for inviting me, and thanks to the Women Fund for all you do. And hello to everyone in the audience and to my colleagues on the panel. Always great to see you all. I'm Alfred Sanchez. I'm the president and CEO of the Greater Miami Chamber of Commerce. We're very aware and involved in the child care issue. It's one of our top priorities. We have 4, and it's one of those that we take every year to Tallahassee and advocate for. We've been supporting early learning movement as VPK from the very inception. From our standpoint, we believe that we cannot have a productive workforce without childcare. I also currently sit on the Early Learning Coalition Board, so I'm involved in this intimately.
Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Andrea.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this invitation. I am, as you mentioned, one of the bosses for babies. I'm CEO of Miami Growth Machine. I run a manufacturing plant. We focus on formulation, supply chain management, and manufacturing with no minimums for mainly beauty startups. So as my friend Brigitte says, lotions and potions. And our vision is to be the Miami hub for CPG innovation. We're also a small business, and 92% of our clients are historically underrepresented. Over 86% of our staff are women. So I think some of the issues that we'll be discussing here, we've met and have had to find practical solutions as a small business. So that's Miami Growth Machine.
We thank you so much for bringing your perspective. Fantastic. Porpoise, please take it away.
Good morning to everybody. It's real pleasure and honor to be here today. I'll see if I can do this in 30 seconds or less. I'm a Kentucky native, the son of 2 public school teachers, and I like to lead with that because I was raised in a union household and good benefits were assumed, and not necessarily the case in the 21st century or in Miami. But I've been here since 1994. I used to be in the film business, but then I pivoted to law school. I've been practicing law for the last 22 years. My practice is employment law. That's probably why I have a little bit to say today. I also focus on anti-corruption compliance, but My job is twofold. I practice and I lead the Miami office as office managing shareholder. And this is a firm with 2,000 attorneys, every one of whom represents employers in some capacity or another. And personally, I oversee about 40 employees. And so I give day-to-day advice, not only to my clients, but also to the folks that I manage. So whether it's helping a client create state-of-the-art parental leave policies or empowering a member of my own staff to take leave so they can focus on childcare during a spouse's chemotherapy treatments, for example. I have the privilege to be on the front lines of all the issues we're talking about today. Personally, I am the father of 22-year-old Helena, who's now in the Peace Corps, and 19-year-old Harry, who's at Miami-Dade College. And one of my personal experiences was when Harry was born, 19, almost 20 years ago, my very, very progressive boss encouraged me to take 2 weeks off. And then she was emailing me while I was in the hospital with him, asking when I could strategize about a case. So that's part of my personal experience with family-friendly workplace. High point of my career so far is my recently completed term as chairman of the board or president of the board of legal services of Greater Miami. And again, I'm really happy to be here today and more than anything to learn from all of you guys.
Your perspective is going to be invaluable. Thank you so much for being here. So Alfred, focus us. What are you seeing? What do we need to know? What are you seeing from your perspective?
All right, well, so a couple of things. I think, first of all, the reason that an economic development organization like the Chamber is involved in this is because it has a direct impact. Childcare has a direct impact on the productivity of our workforce today. But I think as Madeline was talking about, it also has a profound implication to the workforce that we will grow for the future. The more capable our workforce is of learning and exploring the world, the better workers we're going to have, the better engineers we're going to have, and folks who are able to meet the demands of this, very disruptive business environment today. So those are two key issues. So why do businesses care? Because of that, because it makes a difference to your bottom line today and to your bottom line of the future. I think there's a lot of things that businesses need to consider. I think COVID gave us, there's always a silver lining in things, and I always say, don't ever let a good crisis go to waste. If it gave us something, it gave us the notion that we really can trust our workers, and that we can have flexible hours, we can have remote work options, and our employers are not less productive. They're in many cases more productive. And matter of fact, during COVID, I didn't worry about whether my staff was working. I was worried about when they were turning it off because they were always on. So I think that's one of the things. And there's a big trend now to go back to the office full time. I think there's a real place for having time together because of what Steve Jobs used to call these sort of very positive collisions that really spark a lot of creativity. That's important, but I think not losing the flexibility that we got is important because parents who have childcare are going to need that flexibility. Without it, we start to incur a lot of the cost, like tardiness or overtime because you have to pay somebody else to the load that someone else has to ignore. We will have more difficult times filling vacancies because parents can't afford to work unless they can afford childcare. So there's all those kind of things, and I think one of the things that we encourage, we're an activist chamber. We're very involved politically. We're up in Tallahassee advocating for a lot of different things. And one of the things that I would really encourage businesses to do is to get involved in the advocacy for that. We have subsidies that are available to many of our workforces that are being threatened today, because the ironic thing, as we raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour, we are raising the income of our families beyond eligibility levels that were set before the wages were raised. And so a lot of our families are being kicked off and are losing the flexibility. So the irony is that the more they're getting paid, the less they're able to afford their living costs. So we're up there fighting for that and making sure that we raise the eligibility. So it's important on a lot of levels. Many employers are offering childcare themselves. That's important, but you may not have that. And so as an alternative, many employers are also offering, as part of their benefits package, some kind of subsidy for employees who need help with their childcare. So there's a lot of ways for us to, as employers, to get involved and support childcare. And as I said, this is an enlightened self-interest. You're doing good for your employees, but you're also doing great for yourself and for your company.
Oh, we're going to talk more about that, Alfred. Very exciting. Thank you very, very much. Andrea, what are you seeing in your workplace? Great perspective you have.
Yeah, so I put out the challenges on this slide, and as you can see, this is our last holiday party. Over 80% of our staff are women, and many, as Maria, you just pointed out, even as things are changing, women still bear much of the responsibility for caring for children and other loved ones, and that's definitely the experience that I'm seeing with our colleagues here at Miami Growth Machine. We're also a small company, so I came from working in large corporates where we had many departments and a large amount of resources and sort of critical mass that allowed for bigger policies that might have been possible. But when you are 20 and you all need to kind of figure out how you're going to get production out the door, you have to be very practical and you have to be very case by case. And the other big challenge that we have is it's a manufacturing facility. So you can't manufacture remotely. You have to be here. We have very set schedules. A plant opens at 8, closes at 4:30. When you're on a line, it's hard to swap up one person in and out when you're working on a line. And so given those challenges, we were really tasked with solving problems for our employees and have come up with a lot of different flexible ways to address issues in a traditionally stodgy and inflexible industry.
Oh, can't wait to hear how you do that. So we'll get to that the next cycle. Porpoise, what are you seeing with your clients and with your own firm?
Sure. Well, I don't want to be too much of a broken record, but we've already heard some of the highlights. Lack of paid sick leave. I'm sorry, parental leave. Some things just roll off my tongue. We don't have a culture of parental leave in the workplace, and I'm very intentional by saying parental leave because fathers matter too. It's not just mothers, and having supportive units, and sometimes it's two fathers, sometimes it's two mothers. So having employers understand the importance of parental leave is crucial, and finding ways, economically feasible ways to do it is important. I spend a lot of time with both large clients and small clients, helping them to draft policies and update their policies, not only as the law changes, but as expectations change, as desires to work and weave leave into a benefits package becomes a priority, and especially as companies grow. It's a big part of what I see, a big part of what I hear, a big part of what I do. Some of the other things I'm hearing consistently is the high cost of healthcare. What can government do to help with that? Sometimes employers can do things to make that part of a compensation package where healthcare costs are folded in. one of my biggest concerns today, this week, this year is in Florida, the lack of quality reproductive health care for women. We can't ignore that as an impediment to a family-friendly workforce. Ongoing gender role perceptions can be a problem. Parenthood as a roadblock to career advancement, finding ways to manage, and there's this, we don't hear the word anymore. It's kind of become forbidden, but it's still a real thing, is the mommy track. Can you become a partner in a law firm? Can you become a CEO while also being and not being in some niche field, but can you be in a traditional industry, a professional, while being a parent? Or are you going to be sidetracked into an alternative track, which of course leads to an alternative pay structure? And for men, as we become more equitable with parental leave policies, men are judged incredibly for wanting to take time off. I mentioned my experience 20 years ago, and it is now that more men are demanding equal or equitable parental leave. They're contending with pushback that it's just not masculine to do that. Another problem that is ongoing is the lack of women as corporate leaders. And the more equitable the top ranks become, I think the better we're going to be able to have more family-friendly workplaces. And then there's this generational issue, which we also just touched on, and it's the back to the office versus the work from home post-COVID, and the tension that I see literally and I hear about day in and day out is the Gen Z workforce and the expectations they have, the demands that they have for flexibility, learning to balance those in order to evolve with where we are in the 21st century. While also employers many of my clients are exasperated with meeting those demands from a very young workforce. And that exasperation, unfortunately, bleeds over into kind of the next, as they age into parenthood, not being tuned into the ongoing needs. So I guess what I'm trying to say is they feel like they've accommodated folks in their 20s, and then when they move into their 30s and they have to have these whole new set of challenges, or late 20s or 40s, employers are feeling like, I've already bent. What more can I give? And the answer is open dialogue, I believe. The more we communicate, the more we're going to learn about what the workforce needs, and the better we're going to be able to support them, which is good for business.
Most certainly is. Most certainly is. Thank you all for being so active in the chat and the polls. You can start putting your questions in the Q&A, because now we're going to be talking about the best part, solutions. What can we do, Alfred? I know you've got tools for us.
Well, I think I mentioned some of them, right? There are organizations like a lot of the cruise lines, the Royal Caribbean, Carnival, some of the bigger corporations establish their own childcare and offer it to their workforce. There are programs just like when you have a cafeteria style benefits package, that one of the things you may want to add to that is subsidizing the childcare when needed. I think the other part, and I can't stress this enough, because we I think assume that everybody who has a child knows what resources are available to them for their children, and that's not true. I sit on the Early Learning Coalition board, and I know that there are times, and it was especially true after COVID, but there are times where we really need families to apply for the subsidies for the grants that we offer, and they're not out there. So as employers, we can educate our staff in terms of what resources are available out there. What does quality childcare look like? I think the other thing is we can partner with a lot of the nonprofits that are with us today, partner with them to really educate our workforce in terms of what's available. I can't say enough about this idea of quality early learning, because I think that's we tend to think of childcare as kind of like a vault, a bank, where you go and you take this precious metal, which is your kid, and you put it in there and you close the vat, and then you come back after work and you open it up and you take it out. That's not how we should see childcare. Childcare should be educational, right? It should be enriching. Think of it more than giving it to a banker, giving your hunk of precious metal to a jeweler who is going to, while you're at work, craft and mold and bejewel this thing into a beautiful, shining piece of jewelry. And I think what we need to start thinking about early to childcare is that we really should look at it as early learning institutions, not just a place where your kid is being babysat.
Oh, we're getting some good stuff already in the chat here, some good questions, but we're going to ask you, Andrea, to tell us, what are your solutions? What can you share?
So I love what Porpoise was saying about having more of a dialogue with your colleagues and staff. I think that that is fundamental, and that's where all of our solutions have come from. These weren't things that I just decided to come up with. It was based on collaboration and discussions with our staff. So I have 3 case studies that I wanted to highlight. The first is that having things as a small company, and I realize this isn't necessarily going to apply to much larger companies where you have to have more set policies, but as a small company, we really focus on sort of case by case solutions for immediate need. So our head chemist, Madeline, had a childcare gap a few weeks ago where her partner's schedule had changed, and so she wasn't going to have after school care for several hours where she would have normally been working. So we talked it out and figured out a half and half solution that was really driven by her and what was going to work for her and her child, that involved remote work so that she could go home. And she's in a lab, so she needs to be doing things in a lab on a regular basis and looking after our quality control for production. So the morning was dealt with that, and in the afternoon she was heading home and doing work that she could do remotely. She also brought her kid to work, and so for a few days we had Emily here doing homework while in the office, and that worked out pretty well. Another case study I had is really highlighted by sometimes when we have people that are leaving for whatever, either to take care of a child that's sick, or and so we have paid sick leave here. And the reason that we are able to do that is through our policies of cross-training. So although we're a small company, every single person here has a shadow, somebody that can step in for them when it comes to finishing a certain type of work or role or function. And that's really, really critical. For a number of reasons. It's part of a kind of good manufacturing practices. So in that sense, that was a very natural thing for a manufacturing company to highlight, but it's made it possible to have that, along with the Bosses for Babies focus of having family-friendly policies. It's not just to get production out, right? Because somebody's on vacation. It's allowing us to be more flexible and more supportive of things that our colleagues are going through at particularly difficult times that might come up, that might not be planned. So if your kid is sick and you need to leave, somebody else can step in. If you are sick and you need to go and take care of yourself and be taken care of, then we have ways of figuring that out. It creates a very supportive work environment. I think that is really essential as part of the culture, because we're not in this all on our own and have to do everything by ourselves. When someone is in need and has an emergency, their colleague can step in, and at some point you might need that that help as well. And so that kind of back and forth is really, I think, creates a better work environment. And create some resilience within our manufacturing facility as well. And so that's kind of part of what we're doing, but it requires communication, it requires understanding where we might have some gaps. And then the third case study that I have is Diana, who's our logistics expert and supply chain coordinator. And when she came to interview, she was very clear that she would not have been able to work with us if we didn't offer flexible scheduling. So she works part-time, and she's an office worker where it makes it a little bit easier to do that. She works part-time, so she has school drop-off and pickup. That she works around those times and is sometimes remote at home. But we wouldn't have this incredible person who is super dedicated to her job and gets a lot done for us if we weren't able to consider somebody that could work part-time and that could work partially remotely. So I think being open-minded to that and seeing different ways of solving some of those issues means that you can really bring in people that she may have had to sit out of the workforce or had to sort of projects on the side, and instead she can be part of our organization and we can benefit from her skill set because we're able to be flexible. So I think it's really, sometimes we're thinking about the benefits for the employees. These are huge benefits to your company for being able to have people that are highly skilled, retention, the commitment to staff and other people. And I mean, I see so many benefits coming back to me as an employer, and especially as a small business. If I have somebody that can't work anymore, that's a lot of time recruiting and just trying to find somebody. It's a huge burden on a small company. So we want to keep our workforce supported and happy and flexible.
So this isn't preaching. This is very helpful. How many businesses like Andrea's are there across Miami-Dade County? Everything that you're seeing today is being recorded. We encourage everybody to plagiarize, cut, paste, use the parts that are useful to you, show it in an HR meeting, in your class, wherever you want. We do want this to be applicable later in those case studies. I'm sure, Andrea, could affect so many different people. Porpoise, give us some more fishing poles.
I'll do my best. So I can't help but preach that compensation structures have to be established with pay equity issues in mind. So when we limit folks, whether it's explicitly or implicitly, from taking the benefits that we offer, we hold them back and we ultimately lose them as an employer. I tell my clients, don't ask the question, what do I need to provide my employees? But to ask them, what are my employees telling me they need? That's a little bit of a shift in perspective, but I think you get a lot better. You get a lot better tuned into what you can do from a retention standpoint. Consider your HR people to be your friends. They are not just enforcers of your policies, but they are your liaison, and they have their ears to the ground. If you don't have an HR person who's trained with SHRM or otherwise, consider working with somebody like me because advice and counsel is a legal offering, not just fighting in court. So along those lines, a big part of my practice is not telling my clients what they have to do, but compliance is only a first step, and then your commitment is what really matters. I heard earlier today that accommodations might include a lactation room. From a legal point of view, it's a must. It's not an option. So if you don't offer a lactation room for nursing mothers, you should rethink your strategy altogether. That's another basic. The on-site childcare. That was the first thing my daughter asked me about when I told her I was going to be on this program today. Our firm does not have on-site childcare, but I know I think 3 of my colleagues who have their own law firms, they do offer on-site childcare. And I don't just mean it's okay to bring your kid to work, but the types of programs that we were talking about. And it's a huge investment for a small business, but each one of them has reported to me that it's one of the most important things to their staff. Some of the things we do at my firm, we provide resources for all stages of family life. We have a very generous gender-neutral paid parental leave policy, up to 20 weeks of paid leave. And then additional leave for primary caregivers can be unpaid, as well as flexible hours. We make sure that our insurance coverage includes fertility treatments and postpartum supplies and support. Prenatal and postnatal care, those are just not negotiable. We have adoption and surrogacy programs, nursing rooms, like I mentioned, at every U.S. location. We also have online resources for new parents, and this is something that I think is overlooked. Is once you get home with your kid, it's not just about having time off work, but what do you do there? We all hear there's no instruction manual. There's what to expect when you're expecting, which is probably outdated now. But we have mindful return online courses for parents. We have resources for childcare, elder care, pet care, and so on. And one of the things we did institute very successfully during COVID was, we call it Parenting at Littler, or PALS. And it's a set of policies and programs, or programs more than policies, that allow for collaboration across our offices. We have more than 50 offices across the US. And so we wanted to instill a culture of collaboration where people could share ideas. We have facilitated discussion groups. We have a mentoring program for new parents, pairing somebody who's got some experience as a parent with folks that are new to the endeavor. We have benefits that financial benefits for educational programs. We have employee resource groups. We have about a dozen employee resource groups, specifically targeted. It could be kids applying to college. It could be newborns with nursing issues. I think those are 2 that come to mind right away. Where you can join this chat group and get advice and support from your colleagues. Other things we do is we really support putting our money where our mouth is. We encourage not just our firm, but also our clients and our employees to be really, really intentional with their charitable giving strategies. Things like the Women's Fund, things like the Miami Diaper Bank. I don't want to exclude anybody, but there are great organizations that really help folks in the family journey. And Bosses for Babies, of course. I was really excited to hear about it, to learn about it, and to sign on as a boss. So I'll stop there.
Amazing. Madeline, please join us for the Q&A. Let's talk about numbers to start. We want to get up to 100 Bosses for Babies minimum this time next year. But who wants to tell us? I see that we've got somebody from the Florida Chamber of Commerce here as well. Who wants to pull out that number of what the estimated loss to businesses is for inadequate support of families? Alfred, do you want to take that, or Madeline?
I'm happy to. As a proud board of trustee member of the Florida Chamber Foundation, it is $5.4 billion a year that the state of Florida loses due to inadequate childcare. And that is because of things like absenteeism or lateness, as Alfred was talking about earlier. It's also lost tax revenue. And here's the thing, in the way I always think about it, I loved what Andrea said about, this particular person on her team is somebody who might otherwise be at home. If she didn't have the flexibility, she wouldn't have been hired. And what is the situation today? Unemployment in the US, I looked it up this morning, 4.1%. In the state of Florida, 3.3%. In Miami-Dade County, 2.1%. We have such a tight labor market. If you want to recruit from the broadest base of potential employees, you've got to be providing the kind of workplace that a working parent can see themselves in. And so I think, like Alfred said earlier, it is, and Andrea also, this is enlightened self-interest, or this is like good for business. And turns out that what is good for babies is good for everyone. So
love the win-wins. Love the win-wins. I'm going to plug in something else here that we're going to see from now to, 11 months from now. The Women's Fund does have a Children's Trust Innovation Grant, and we're going to engage every single person here today, whether in their audience or on screen, because we're looking at best practices models to be able to help all sorts of businesses invest in the ecosystem of the early child learning center businesses, right? So what does that mean? It means focusing and saying, oh, that small business there that, as BLI has been noting here in some of the chats, are paying taxes, they're employing people. So how do we get businesses who are supporting their workforce, their HR departments, and their leadership to look at the smaller businesses and the early child learning centers near them, listen to their employees, see what their employees want, see where the high quality early ed is going on, and circle through and try and support that ecosystem, whether it is saying, I'm a business in this neighborhood and there are 3 centers around me. I like this one most. But they're all giving early child quality education. I'm going to ask my employees if they would like, as part of their compensation package, for me to say, I'm going to reserve a slot for you for the next 2 years. Thus, that small business right next door is going to be able to have a business plan that is stronger. So it's these kinds of things that we're going to be learning about, best practices from across the globe, bringing them here, and always tailoring things to Miami-Dade County with input from you all. So everybody's on the hook, and it starts today. It starts today. So I know that, Alfred, you answered this one in the chat already, but we want everybody to be able to hear. So Rocio, we know where you work, but it's a great question. It was for both Alfred and for Porpoise. What is your recommendation for advocates on this topic? What's the best and most effective way to bring this message in front of business owners and employers who aren't necessarily focused like we are today?
Well, I think from our standpoint, like I said, we've got 1,200 businesses who are members and growing. A lot of chambers are focusing on this. I think from the U.S. Chamber and Florida Chamber. The Florida Chamber has been a leader in this for a long time. I mean, I've been in this role for 8 years. My very first meeting was with the Florida Chamber, and they were talking about the issue of unintended consequences for raising the minimum wage, and this was one of them, the loss of subsidies for that. But look, I think I would say join a chamber. There are a lot of and other advocacy groups. There are a lot of us who are banding together to make sure that we are supporting childcare and early learning initiatives in our community. So I think if you don't know of a place, call us at the chamber, and if you can't become members with us, I'm sure we can point you in the right direction. This is a very, very important issue, and so there are a lot of organizations that are wrestling with this. The last thing I would say is make sure you know your legislator in your area, know your commissioners, have a relationship with that. Business owners, we need to make that part of the docket of our work, because they're the ones who are going to be able to carry the message and carry legislation to make what you need to happen in Tallahassee.
Porpoise, I want to ask you to scare people. Just put on that other hat, because sometimes it does go to litigation. So can you answer that same thing? Is there a way to bring it to the attention of other business owners by also saying, actually, this can be very costly? Can you answer that question in that way?
Well, yeah, when I go in to do any sort of training, whether it's harassment, discrimination, anti-corruption, you name it, I usually have a slideshow, And usually 2 or 3 of those slides are devoted to penalties for whatever the topic is. But we in Miami, especially South Florida, we're traditionally labeled, and this is a formal label, it's a judicial hellhole. And that's not a statement about our judiciary, that's a statement about what it means to try a case as an employer in Miami. It means that the damage awards are the highest in the nation. So if you and as an employer, you have obligations, not just, it's one thing when you call people nasty names. It's one thing when you have the overt hostile work environment where there's just a culture where people are unwanted and it's expressed. It's another thing when there are microaggressions, and these are the things that happen day in and day out, especially with young parents. So and I am constantly, and I mean it constantly, I'm not overusing that word, counseling my clients about the dangers of adverse employment actions when they haven't documented poor performance. Putting somebody on a PIP, firing them, demoting them, not promoting them, and using poor performance as an excuse leads to a lawsuit. And more and more, it's growing that the allegation is they targeted me because of the leave that I asked for, whether it's parental, whether it is healthcare, whether it's disability. It is a growing wedge that employers have to prepare for. And sometimes it's true, but sometimes it's not.
I love it. Do the right thing and stay out of trouble, right?
Sure.
There's so many questions here, so we're going to try and go a little bit fast. Can any of you say, how about Miami-Dade offering any small business grants or low interest loans for childcare center home-based businesses so they can meet actual cost of care? Has anybody seen that? Have you seen that at all, Madeline, maybe? No.
I don't know of anything to the employer, but I do. I mean, there are subsidies for the employees, right? I talked about the Early Learning Coalition, the Children's Trust. There are 2 areas where you can go and find subsidies if you need help in paying for care. Listen, it is not cheap. Childcare comes at a high price. I mean, I think at the low end, for somebody who's already in preschool, I mean, a toddler and after school care, something, you could pay somewhere in the neighborhood of $800 to $1,000 a month per kid. The recommended percent of your income for childcare is 7%. Our folks pay 20%. So it's not cheap. Even if you're making minimum wage, that's not a lot of money. I think it's an issue, but there are resources out there for families. I'm not sure for businesses that want to start their own childcare.
It makes me think of some other things, though. Our work continues here. Actually, that's very interesting. There's some business accelerators who are interested in supporting. The reason that Women's Fund got so into this with our Early Learning Coalition grantee cohort was because we find it was one of the biggest impediments to women's economic mobility coming out of COVID, right? And so this is good business for everyone. Are there state or federal laws that can be leveraged to address some of these initiatives? And how do they fall short? Maybe Madeline.
Yeah, I mean, I think Purpose could probably speak to the cost on the employment side as he did a little earlier, but in terms of state law, the new state law that provides some incentive is the childcare tax credit. So this offers for businesses that pay corporate income tax in Florida, oil and gas tax, we've a couple of others, and we can share the information in the chat, Rick, if you have that handy, or Michaela from the Florida Chamber has that too. If you either create on-site childcare or you provide a subsidy of up to $300 a month, so $3,600 a year per child, you can get that back in terms of a tax credit. And so that is a way to bring employers into the game. And my own view of this is there are few companies in Florida who pay corporate income tax. We know that it's a low tax state. But for the ones who do, take a look at that. For the ones who don't, think about how an option like that just belongs in your benefit package and what could change. You've got Andrea's employee, fictionally, if she were not there yet, and Andrea's offering the subsidy. You see it on a job posting. You call your friend, hey, Maria, I know you weren't looking for a job again because you said childcare is too expensive, but employers are starting to offer this now. I just saw it on a job posting. Maybe you want to start looking again. What can change culturally if this becomes a benefit alongside 401k or health benefits? This is the challenge to employers to consider.
So we're going to show the slide, the Bosses for Babies slide. What you need to know, you are so connected. There's no reason you cannot follow up on this, and you know so many people. This is recorded, and by this time tomorrow, you will see this entire presentation, not only on our YouTube, but on our website, where you see Impact Collaboratives. You can see all kinds of great information. Share it, please. Put it in an HR meeting. You don't have to do it in its entirety. We don't care. We want this information to be leveraged. The same thing if you come back this time next month. Viviana, this is not like a training that you should miss. Utilizing the Miami-Dade self-sufficiency standard is going to allow you to show and demonstrate why businesses should be supporting not only the work in Tallahassee that supports the entire workforce of the entire ecosystem of the community by having the subsidies for people who need it, right? But also this creative possibility of working and supporting with HR. And that can be great for your bottom line and for many reasons that Madeline and everyone has just mentioned. So if we want a strong, strong economy for Miami-Dade and strong, strong brains and workforce to come, let's help people focus by signing them up for Bosses for Babies, by becoming involved in these innovations that we can all implement together, because nobody does it alone, and let's not kid ourselves that they do. So we thank everybody for being with us today. I'm going to ask the panelists to stay on for 2 minutes afterwards because I've got another ask, a very short ask. Please, this is your Women's Fund. We're at your service for all of these resources. You can volunteer like Veronica has. Welcome to our Impact Agents, our volunteer corps. And you can be a champion. So if you like our work and you want to be part of all of this, decide to be a champion on Give Miami Day and get your friends feeling good about giving $25 or more to make our community a better place. There are like 1,000 orgs. And so come see us. Our gift to you is Viviana Alvaro Pacheco giving you a training. And thanks everybody for staying on these extra 2 minutes. Amazing to have you all here. Thanks. So panelists, we're going to stop recording here. This won't be here, but we're looking for